This is notes 1.3. Remember that at this point we will no longer be printing the notes out for you. However, a copy of this notes is located on your Google Classroom, so feel free to print this out and then copy this notes as you go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right to it. Notice that right here we have a few word expressions to describe the following operations. You can read that yourself if you like. You can pause at this point and read them. Alright, so we're going to jump to the exercises. So right here we're going to write an algebraic expression to represent each verbal expressions. Now you don't have to do this necessarily, but I like to underline some of the operations so I know what it is that I'm doing. So on this one it says the sum of 6 times a number and 25. So right here we have 6 times a number and 25. Alright, so the sum of 6 times a number, which is represented by n, and 25. Right, and the next one we have 4 times the sum of a number and 3. So 4 times the sum. So right here I'm going to actually have to put parentheses here because the next thing is actually two different things here. So we have 4 n plus 3. The sum of a number and 3. Okay? So again, make sure to look at it, make sure you understand it. If you don't, make sure you ask me questions tomorrow. Now, on number 3, we have 7 less than 15 times a number. Alright, this one can be a little bit tricky. The 7 less than, alright, that's actually going to be minus 7 and 15 times a number. So that's going to be 15 times a number. So this is sometimes, a lot of people tend to write this backwards. They will write 7 minus 15n, but remember it says 7 less. So this is 7 less than 15 times a number. Alright, on number 4, the difference of 9 times a number and the quotient of 6 and the same number. So the difference, that means we're going to subtract, times means we're going to multiply, quotient means that's going to be a division. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that. So the difference of 9 times, remember we have the difference, so I have to subtract. Difference of 9 times a number and the quotient of 6 and a number. Okay, so now on number 5 we have the sum of 104 times a number. So the sum, which is addition, and 4 times, which is multiplication. So we have the sum of 100 and 4 times a number, and 4 times a number. 4n is 4 times. Alright, at this point if you think you get it, you can feel free to fast forward if you like, but make sure you at least see me do all the examples. Alright, you don't want to miss anything. On number 6, the product of 3, so the product means we're going to multiply, the sum means we're going to add. Okay, so we have the product of 3 and, so that means that whatever comes after that is what I'm going to multiply that 3 times. So we have the sum of 11 of an n a number. Right, now notice that on this one I'm going to put this in parentheses because we're multiplying this 3 times this quantity right here. So I want to write a parentheses right there. On number 7 we have 4 times the square of a number increased by 5 times the same number. Alright, so we have 4 times, that's multiplication, square means you're going to raise to the power of 2. A number increased, that means you're actually going to add, and 5 times means you're going to multiply it. Alright, so we have 4 times the square of a number increased by 5 times the same number. So since it says the same number, we can use the same variable. On number 8, 23 more than the product of 7 and a number. More means plus, product means multiplication. Alright, so we have 23 more, excuse me, I just wrote 25. 23 more than the product of 7 and a number, so 7n. Okay, so is that for that section. Now number 9 we're actually going to go backwards. We have an algebraic expression and we're going to write this as a verbal sentence. Alright, so we're going to write a sentence for this. So there's a few ways that you can do this. There's more, definitely not, this is not going to be the only way. So if you come up with something different, then that's okay. Now on this one, I'm going to call the difference. I'm going to start off by saying the difference, which means I'm going to subtract. The difference of 3 times, notice that's a 3 times right there, 3 times a number, and $35 is 79. So because this has an equal sign, all right, that equal sign is being represented by is. So on the next one, even though it's pretty tough, it looks kind of tough, we're going to say the product. So this is going to be a little bit long, okay? So this would be the product of 2 product of 2 and the sum of a number cubed and 3 times the same number squared is, which is the equal sign, 4 times is 4 times the same number. Okay? And then now on number 11, again, there's definitely more than one way to do this. On this one, I'm going to say the quotient of 5 times, or you can even say 5 times a number divided by, which might be easier, so let me write that instead. I'll write 5 times a number divided by the sum of the same number and 3 is a number, you can even say equal to if you want to, is the same number minus 8. So you can do it as simple as that if you wanted to, right? You don't have to get all fancy with the product and the quotient and all that. You can actually write it as simply as that. And maybe I should have wrote here the same number, but all right. On to the back, all right, so to the more interesting stuff in my opinion. All right, on 1-3, we're actually going to solve on the back of the notes. We're actually going to solve for linear equations. Now, we have already started doing this, all right, so I'm going to go through this kind of fast, but I'm going to try to explain as much as possible as I go, all right, so I'm going to, if you have any questions, make sure to rewind, watch it again. If you already know this, just go ahead and fast forward through it. And just pay attention, all right? Especially this first 6 should be nothing new. So right here, if I have 2/3 m is equal to 1/2, what I'm going to do here, I need to get rid of this 2/3. So what I'm going to do, well, first I'm going to rewrite this. So I have 2/3 m is equal to 1/2. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to multiply times the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply this times 3/2, and if I do it to the left side, I have to do it to the right side. Okay? So when I do this, this will actually cancel this left side. So this is going to cancel this. And that's going to leave me with 3/4. Now, it's asking us to check the solution. Now, some of you on the review would ask me, well, did I do this right? And you can actually find out if you're right or not if you just simply check it, right? So if I have 2/3, I'm going to replace this m with 3/4. So I'm going to write a 3/4 here, and then the question is that equal to 1/2? Okay, now notice that this 3's will cancel. I'm going to end up with 2/4, and then the question is 2/4 equals to 1/2? And hopefully you know that that's actually true. Alright, so that one checks out. So that's how you can check your answer. Alright, now I'm not going to check every solution on here just for the sake of time, but that's how you would do it. Right on the next one, if you have this, remember we always start with adding or subtracting. I need to get rid of the 7. Get all the x terms by themselves before you do anything else. So subtract 7, so I have a negative 1/2 x is equal to negative 4. And then now at this point, I can do the same thing that I did over here. I can multiply times the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply this times 2 over negative 1 or negative 2 over 1, it doesn't matter. I'm going to multiply this times a negative 2 over 1. Okay, that's going to cancel this, and that's going to give me x is equal to positive 8. Now, in case you might be thinking about it, I could have also got rid of this 1/2 by multiplying both sides by negative 2. Okay, so I could have also done that. Alright, on the next one, number 3, remember you must get all the x terms on one side first, all the variables on one side, and the numbers on the other side of the equal sign. So in this case, I'm going to subtract 5x from each side. This is negative 2x plus 17 is equal to negative 13. Right, then at that point I'm going to subtract 17 from each side. So that's going to give me negative 2x is equal to negative 30. And if I divide both sides by negative 2, then x is going to be positive 15. Again, if you want to check your answer, make sure to check it out. You're on your own. Alright, number 4. On this one right here, we're going to distribute first. And there's more than one way to do this, right? So you could have also divided both sides by 5 if you wanted to. And I may do that on later. So let's just see how this works. So this is going to give me 20 minus 5k is equal to negative 10k. And then now I have to get all the k's on one side, leave the other number on the other side of the equal sign. So I'm going to add 5k, I'm going to add 5k. So it's going to give me 20 is equal to negative 5k. And then I will proceed by dividing both sides by negative 5. So k is equal to negative 4. Alright, again, if you could, and I'm going to write it on the sticky note if you are interested. If you wanted to, another way to do this, since this is 5 times 4 minus k is equal to negative 10k, right, notice this is the same problem. What you could have done is you could have started off by dividing both sides by 5. So you have 4 minus k is equal to negative 2k. And if I add k to each side, remember I want to get all the variables on one side, I get 4 is equal to negative k. And if I divide or multiply both sides times a negative 1, then I would get k is equal to negative 4, which is the same answer. So 2 ways to do it. A lot of these actually have more than one way to do it. It's just, so there's not really a wrong way to do it as long as you get the right answer and the steps are logical. Alright. Next step, I'm going to subtract 120 on number 5. So remember, I want to leave the variable by itself. That's my goal. So I have a negative 3/4 y is equal to negative 60. Alright, so we're at that point, we're right there. Remember, this kind of takes us back to the problem like number 1. All right, we're going to multiply both sides times the reciprocal. 4 over negative 3, that's going to cancel this. I'm going to multiply this by 4 over negative 3. Okay? And then get the answer from there. So let's see what we're going to get here. Okay. So this is going to be, let's see if I reduce some of this so I don't have to use a calculator. That's going to give me a positive 20. So y should be equal to 20 times 4 should be 80. Alright, and again, make sure to check your answer. Okay. Now, on this next one. Alright, actually, let me, well, never mind. I was going to check this one for you, but again, you can check it out if you like. Okay, so on this next one right here, I'm just going to show you what the answer is, or what I got. Please check the answer yourself, but if you do yourself, that's what you should get. Alright, on the next few, on the last four, which could be considered the harder ones, because you're not actually looking for a numeric answer, you're actually just rearranging the formula, which is if this is something you have learned today, then that's actually going to help you a whole lot in a class like physics whenever you do take it. Alright, so on this one, notice that they're asking us to solve the equation, but we're going to solve for t. Okay? So, again, what I'm looking for is I'm looking forward to solving for that variable alone. So pretend this s is just a number. Alright? Remember, like I told you before, one of the things you can do if you want to, you don't have to do it like this, is I can multiply, I can cross multiply like this. So I have s times 1, which is s, and you can multiply 10 times 2t, which is 20t. Right? So again, I'm going to write that t in a different color so you'll know that that's what I'm looking for. So at this point, do not worry about the fact that this is a letter. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to get this t by itself. And to do that, I'm going to divide, both sides by 20. So the answer is that t is equal to s over 20. Just like that. Okay? Now on the next one, do me a favor, right? If you're watching this on video, notice that I'm solving for p. Oh, excuse me. The lights just turned off because they thought that I left. But they were wrong. I'm still here. Okay, so remember I put that in a different color. P is what you're solving for, right? So if you're actually watching this video, pause for just a second and see if you can do this problem on your own. Alright, assuming that you have tried this problem, alright, welcome back. Let's go ahead and finish this one. So what you need to do, there's more than one way to do this. If you want to put this over 1, like I normally do, and cross multiply, do it, alright? The other way to do this is, for example, if I want to get rid of the r, so I'm going to do it a slightly different way. If I want to get rid of the r, I multiply this by r, and that will cancel that. And if I multiply the left side, I have to multiply the right side. Now, if you would have cross multiplied, you would have got exactly the same answer. All right, so please don't freak out about this. This is just more than one way to do this. All right, so we have 3pq is equal to 12r. All right, so I'm just rewriting that. So at this point, remember, I want to get the p by itself. So remember, and then this is literally 3 times p times q, even though we don't write a multiplication sign. So all of these terms are being multiplied. So to break this apart, I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide by 3. All right, and it turns out that I can divide more than one thing at the same time. So I'm going to divide both sides by q. All right, so I'm going to divide this by q also on top of that. And then I'm going to reduce. Alright, so on this one we have p is equal to 4r over Q. Remember, this is a 4 because 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay? And so anyways, that's how you do that one. Now on the next one, I was thinking about not doing that one, but then I realized that this is probably one that even, honestly, even students at a higher math level than you guys tend to struggle with a problem like this when you're trying to solve for a variable. But notice I'm trying to solve for x, but the x is here and here, right? So what do? So the answer is almost exactly the same thing as you've been doing here. You want to get all the x terms on one side, and it doesn't matter that this x term already has a y for now, all right? It doesn't matter. So what I want to do is I'm going to subtract x on both sides, right? And that's going to give me 2xy minus x is equal to 7. Right, so that's what I have for now. Now, the next step, you might be wondering, well, how do I make this 2x's into 1x, right? So I want to have 1x, not 2. So again, if you're watching this, pause it real fast and see if you can figure that out for a couple minutes. Okay, so the answer to that, and a lot of people forget that, is that you can factor out an x. Remember, if you have an x in common here, you have an x here and an x here, so I can actually factor out an x. So when I factor out an x, I end up with 2y minus 1 is equal to 7. Okay? Now, just a quick side note, if you're like, well, how did he get that from this? All right, remember that when you factor out, when you find something right in here that you have in common, especially if it's a variable, if they have an x in common here, then when I say factor an x out, what I'm actually doing is actually what goes in here is what would happen if I divide this by x. If I divide this by x, I would cancel, end up with 2y, which is right there. X divided by x is 1. Remember, that's the same, that's basically dividing a number by itself. Well, that's a 1, so that's how I got that 1. All right, so if you don't understand this part, make sure you ask me. All right, finally, notice that right here I have x times this quantity. Okay? I'm going to divide both sides by that quantity. And that's it. So the answer is 7 over 2y minus 1. Okay. And I believe that's probably the hardest one. Okay, so finally on 21, all of these are really good problems, so I honestly cannot skip any of these. On this one right here, what you need to do is we're going to solve for f. Right? So I'm going to try to get f by itself. So if I'm trying to get f by itself, I want to move this d over 2 to that side. Alright, so that's going to give me f over 4. Remember, I'm going to subtract d over 2 from both sides here. So I have 6 minus d over 2, like that. Now you might be wondering, well, what do I do? Do I cross multiply? No, right? Remember, look at the f. This is what I'm trying to solve for. So how do I get this by itself? Well, look at it. What is happening right here? I have a division, right? I'm dividing by 4. So to get rid of the 4, I'm going to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So I'm actually going to multiply this by 4, and that will cancel this. And I'm going to multiply all of this times 4. Okay? Now, I'm going to rewrite it real fast. This is 4 times 6 minus d over 2. I'm only rewriting it because some people don't really know, they find this to be strange, but really what you're doing is this. And now I am going to distribute. So this would be f is equal to 24. And then 4 times that, remember if I have 4 times this, that 2 can cancel that 2, or you can write it as 4 over 2, which is 2d. Okay, so that's the answer for that one. Alright, again, this last 4 problems can be difficult, so make sure you ask questions tomorrow.